Kuzangpo and a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine where we take a look at the week gone by. I'm Tenzin Rabki. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King granted an audience to the 7th batch of Desups in Tenchuling in Wangdi on Wednesday. The first sitting of the newly constituted National Council elected Dasho Dr. Sonam Kinga as its chairperson. And the first hazelnut harvest will take place in the country this year as a result of the Hazelnut Project. Here are the details. His Majesty the King granted an audience to the 7th batch of Desups at Tenchuling in Wangdi. His Majesty was accompanied by Her Majesty the Gyaltsen. Addressing over 100 volunteers, His Majesty the King highlighted the importance of knowing the history of one's country.
Very important to know your own history, because if you know from where to where you've come from, then you know where you stand today. Now, if you know where you stand today, then the future is much clearer. So that's why it's important to know your history. Then you'll get a much better understanding of where we are today, and henceforth we have to start preparing for the future.
His Majesty the King also shared that it was young graduates of the country who requested him to start the Desung training program. His Majesty added, people like them inspired him.
You all give me motivation. You all reinforce my sense of duty. And when I'm in front of you, I get reminded of why I love serving my country.
His Majesty the King has said in the past that there is a higher responsibility not written in any legal document, but instead enshrined in humanity and history. A natural responsibility and duty that we all must shoulder equally, irrespective of who we are. Of paramount importance to the strength of a nation is the ability of her people to live as one united family, a community in which interaction is marked by trust, understanding, and cooperation. The first batch of Desups were trained in early 2011. The word Desung means guardians of peace. Tenzin Rabki, BBS News. In the first sitting of the National Council last Friday, Dasho Dr. Sonam Kinga was elected its chairperson and Siring Doji the deputy chairperson.
Contesting for the seat of chairperson were Dasho Dr. Sonam Kinga of Tashkang, Sangye Khandu from Gasa and Jigme Rinzin from Pemagas Hill. Before the councillors started the casting of votes, members were briefed on election procedures by officials from the Election Commission of Bhutan. When the briefing was completed, the atmosphere seemed heavy when the councillors were called one by one to cast their franchise. After all the 25 members finished voting, it took the election officials only a few minutes to be ready with the results. Dasho Dr. Sonam Kinga is announced as the chairperson with 15 votes, while Sangye Khandu won 8 votes and Jigme Rinzin managed only 2 votes. Siring Doji was elected as the deputy chairperson with 25 yes votes. As he was the lone candidate nominated for the post, he was elected to a yes or no vote. After the elections, in the presence of the Chief Justice Sonam Topge, the members took the oath or affirmation of office. The newly elected chairperson and the deputy chairperson also took the oath or affirmation of secrecy. Sherab Sangmo for BBS News.
Bhutan will be harvesting its first hazelnuts this year. The first batch of hazelnut trees were planted in 2008 under the Hazelnut Project.
The Mountain Hazelnut Venture has already planted more than 700,000 hazelnut trees in Bhutan. More than 2,000 households in the eastern Dzongkhag, including Shemgang and Pumtang, are involved in the project. The first trees were planted in October 2008 in Rongshika village in Tashkang. The company is quite happy about the outcome of the venture.
In the juvenile We planted hazelnut trees in October 2008 on a trial basis in Rangshikar. The progress has been very good, and from this year, the trees began producing hazelnuts. It's a major achievement for the project, and we are very happy.
Apnaku from Rangshikar is among the first farmers to plant hazelnut trees. Although skeptical when he first started, Apnaku now shares he is happy with the success of the project.
My hard work has finally paid off. My trees have started producing hazelnut, and I am very happy. I want to plant more hazelnut trees now as the company is providing tree saplings free of cost and delivering it to our houses. So I want to make the most of this opportunity.
The project in the next 3 years will be planting more than 2 million hazelnut trees. The company will be distributing hazelnut saplings free of cost to farmers, says the project's regional coordinator.
We started our project in Bhutan in 2013. We are expecting to distribute at least 1 million trees. This year and between 2014 to 2016, the company is expecting to distribute 2 million hazelnut trees to farmers.
The harvest this year will be a major milestone for the project. More farmers are expected to take the hazelnut cultivation, with the initiative proving to be successful. Compiled for Pemanamge, Kinga Wongmo for BBS News.
The High Court has upheld the Mongar District Court's verdict on the Gelpushing land allotment case. The verdict was passed on Thursday. The former National Assembly Speaker Jigme Tsitim is sentenced to 2.5 years imprisonment. He was convicted for official misconduct, fraud and deceptive practice. The early allegation of forgery has been dismissed due to lack of evidence. The former speaker, as the then Mongar Zongda, had been the chairman of the Land Allotment Committee. The former Home Minister Minjur Doji and 13 other committee members have also been sentenced to 1 year imprisonment for official misconduct. The former Home Minister, also as the Mongar Zongda and the chairman of the committee, has been convicted for official misconduct. All who have been sentenced can pay trimthi or cash penalty in lieu of the sentence term. They can also appeal to the Supreme Court within 10 working days. Construction work at Gaselo Lower Secondary School in Wangdi was terminated after the contractor failed to meet the deadline. The incomplete construction has now given way to many inconveniences, not only to the school but also to its students.
The 2011 earthquake partially destroyed the hostel building of Gaselo Lower Secondary School, making the hostel not fit to live in. Later, the Zongkak Education Office had offered the contract for the construction of 96-bedded hostel to a private contractor. However, as the contractor failed to show any significant progress at the site, the contract was terminated in February this year. Although the construction has now completely stopped, it is now the school and the students who are facing problems. Shortage of hostel facilities and classrooms still remains the worst.
The earthquake had damaged the hostel and left cracks all over the hostel wall. It was risky for the students to live in there, so new hostel construction was initiated by the Zongkak. The works are supposed to be completed by the end of this month, but there was no progress at all, and we are facing various problems.
Meanwhile, the students are using multi-purpose hall and classrooms as hostel. Students at times have to share beds. It is difficult to maintain hygiene, and it is worse as toilets are located far away. The unfinished construction has also left several huge holes in the grounds. This has become a cause of concern for the safety of the students.
The area is filled with holes and it is risky for students, especially small children, as they have to use the path along the area to go to toilet. Our teachers always have to keep an eye on the students. It gets worse during rainy season.
Meanwhile, with the help from the UNICEF, the school has been provided with tents to serve as dining hall. But the students say it is not hygienic as it is dusty.
Dining hall kugi pupe bendi mola lumo phali suto phuda theo ju suto na jibe jani problem.
As two of the classrooms are being used as girls' hostel, some of the classes have been shifted to the tents.
Their hands are dirty, even clothes very dirty, and then how much we tell them, they still, maybe because of at this young age, they continue with these things now.
Kaselu Lower Secondary School has a total of over 460 students, of which over 250 are boarding students and over 200 are day scholars. Kampal for Kunzang Tile, Sherab Zangmo for BBS News.
Work to construct classrooms at Dagana Lower Secondary School and a hostel for Gesarling Middle Secondary School has been delayed. The students are the ones who are facing the problem due to the delay.
The construction of a building to house classrooms and science laboratory began in January last year in Dagana Lower Secondary School. It was supposed to be complete by April this year, but it is yet to be completed. And with shortage of classrooms, some of the classes are crowded with 54 students each. To address the problem, the school also built temporary classrooms with support from the parents. But the principal of the school said it is not enough to solve the problem.
4 classrooms are overcrowded with students. The new classrooms should have been ready by last year. If the classrooms are ready, there will be no problem of shortage of classroom at all.
Similarly, in Gesarling Middle Secondary School in Dagana, students are facing problems due to the delay in the construction of a hostel. The vice principal of Gesarling Middle Secondary School, Singye Wangchuk, said a room in a hostel is shared by about 56 students, forcing the students to share the beds.
The students have to live in crowded hostel. The construction of hostel is delayed. We hope to solve the problem by June this year, since the Zongkhak has extended the deadline till June.
The Zongkhak Engineering Section said from here on they will deal as per the rules and regulations in place if the contractors are not able to meet the deadline. The Zongkhak engineer in Dagana said to prevent such problems in the future, a committee is also being formed to monitor the works.
The monitoring committee
3 or 4 months after the work has been awarded to the contractor, this committee will visit the site to see the progress. If there is no progress, even in 2-3 months' time, the concerned contractor will be investigated by the Zongkhak Tender Committee. We hope all these problems will not arise in the future.
Meanwhile, the contractors are asked to complete the constructions in these 2 schools by the end of June this year. Until then, the problems will continue. Compiled for Puba, Tandon Finso, BBS News.
The construction of drains along the newly constructed 14-kilometer Gesarling-Nimtongla farm road in Dagana is underway. The locals are complaining that the quality of the sand that is being used to construct the drains is poor.
Local people say the sand being used to construct drains along the newly constructed farm road from Gesarling Gyok to Nimtola village in Dorona Gyok in Dagana is of poor quality.
The quality of construction is being compromised and it needs to be corrected before the works are completed.
tindalu na thento to chi meuni me no sa ko mi ti la ba
hangi jingdi ma baler mi tu se nga chi ma ta ba jodalu nga chi ge bire mi
After the local people complained, we went for an inspection and found out the quality of sand being used in date was not up to the standard. So we requested the Zonghak engineer to carry out an immediate inspection.
The Zonghak engineering inspection team too found out the sand quality to be poor.
The composition of sand was 20% soil. The contractor was asked to do proper segregation of sand from soil. I went for the second inspection and found out the same sand quality was being used. Now the parts of drains that have been constructed using poor sand quality have been demolished. We are making the contractor to redo the whole thing using high quality sand.
But the contractor maintains there's nothing wrong with the quality of the sand. However, he said he's redoing everything to satisfy the people, though it's costing him over 3 million neutrum. Compiled for Phuba, Tishinongmo, BBS News.
A community of nomads from Merak Gyok and the people of Pongme Gyok in Tashigang are at odds over Gyok boundary issues.
This community forest shares boundary with Merak Gyok. Before it was converted into community forest by the people of Pongme Gyok, the nomads of Merak used it as grazing land for their animals. However, in 2008, 3 villages in Pongme Gyok who claimed traditional rights over the 568 acres of forest decided to convert it into a community forest. Since then, the 2 communities have been at odds.
They have converted our grazing land into a community forest. We respect their decision, but what is important is that they have to respect the boundary. We waited to finalize the boundary, but before that they have converted it into community forest. They have to consult us and get our consent. But they did not even inform us.
But this is the community forest members' stance on the matter.
It is true that we did not obtain clearance from them when we converted the community forest. This does not mean we are taking over their land. We are just following the boundary that existed since our parents' time. Therefore, we did not feel the need to get their consent.
The issue became worse after community forest members started imposing fines on the nomads whose animals were found grazing in the area. The 2 communities led by the Gyokubs had met twice to settle the dispute, but to no avail.
We could not locate where exactly the Gyok boundaries are. What we have now decided is to discuss the matter further with the people and then ask the Zonghak to intervene. This is what the 2 groups are working on now.
If the Gyok authorities fail to come up with a solution that is mutually beneficial, the nomads are planning to take the matter to the court. Compiled for Pemanamge, Tishinongmo, BBS News.
Well, that's all we have for you in this week's edition of Bhutan This Week. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, this is Tenzin Rabgye saying bye-bye and have a good weekend.